As part of the government policy to achieve 10% forest cover, conservatory and protection of the ecosystem, Radio Ingo, in conjunction with Kakamega County, Kenya Forest Services and National Environmental Management Authority, NEMA, will participate in tree planting at the Kakamega Forest on 8th of April 2022 and on 9th of April 2022. A church service will be held at St. Paul Muyenga Anglican Church of Kenya in Kakamega. Let's plant trees for a better tomorrow.
As times changes, technologies grow, and so you need to be in the know. We bring you tech news from all over the world.
Me, I understand science revolves around life.
Tech policies and programs, Take on Tech has your back. Coming to your screens every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1. Join me, Stephanie Ayeta and Grace Gidaiga as we serve you with only the best tech updates the world over.
In the last 9 years, President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration has outlined 8 financial plan and expenditure plan for the country. These have seen the budget numbers grow from 1.6 trillion shillings in the year 2013-2014 to the current 3.3 that is planned for the year 2022-2023. Tomorrow, National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani is expected to present what is widely termed as Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy budget. We are going to question the numbers and of course help you make sense of the statement. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Welcome to this special coverage of the 2022-2023 national budget. And of course, I'm joined by my colleague, Serfine Achieng. It's good to see you, Serfine.
Good to see you too.
And if I was to ask you this question, what are you looking forward for in tomorrow's budget presentation by Treasury CS Ukur Yatani?
It's called the pre-budget edition tonight. And as we speak right now, my expectations as a Kenyan, we're looking at the high cost of living, and I'm hoping that the budget is going to be sensitive to that. We are also, having this at a time when over 2.6 million Kenyans are actually facing starvation in different parts of the country. So I'm hoping that there is going to be consideration for that in tomorrow's budget.
Yes.
More so on proactive programs that the government intends to put in place, because we cannot afford to sustain giving relief food, giving, sort of like become the knee-jerk reactions. I'm looking at what is it that the government is going to set aside that is going to be spent on proactive programs to mitigate drought and its impacts in the country.
The beauty of it is that we shall be on the floor looking at these numbers and, of course, analyzing everything to see whether your expectations will be met.
Will be met, yeah, indeed. Wish me all the best of that, and all the Kenyans out there. We know you have expectations, and tomorrow the day's coverage is going to be dedicated to looking at some of these numbers and the way forward for the country, as it is termed the legacy budget, a live coverage that will be made specially for you tomorrow right here on KBC Channel 1. But it starts tonight.
Definitely.
With the top stories.
Exactly. Time now to have a look at the highlights. Legacy budget. We make sense of Yatane's trillions.
Taming insecurity. Achieng cautions leaders against incitement.
And Form 1 selection, learners to know their placement next week. You want to start?
Once again, a very good evening and welcome to the broadcast. My name is Serfine Achieng and our sign language interpreter tonight is Lensa Odingo.
My name is O'Brien Kimani and my Twitter handle is @O'Brien Kimani.
All right, on to our top story. Expectations are high among Kenyans that this year's budget will focus on reducing the cost of living and stimulating economic activity, as the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani unveils details of the 3.31 trillion shillings budget tomorrow.
Well, this year's budget is being presented 2 months earlier than usual so that members of Parliament authorizes aid before the 12th Parliament is dissolved on the 10th of June this year.
All eyes will be on the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani as he presents his last budget under the current administration. Yatani is expected to navigate a distance of 650 meters between the Treasury building and Parliament, with his iconic briefcase to present the biggest ever budget of 3.31 trillion shillings. Kenyans are hoping that this year's budget will focus on reducing the cost of living that has worsened in recent months, straining many households' budget.
Namuhimiza waziri wa fedha Ukur Yatani aangazie sana common man.
Ikiwa umeshaongeza ngani na maziwa hakuna na unga ya sima hakuna na michele imeongezeka, tutakufa njaa.
The prices of essential commodities such as milk, wheat flour, bread, cooking oil, cooking gas and fuel have increased. This has forced many households to dig deeper in their pockets, as well as cut off some commodities from their shopping lists as they wait the government to ease their burden. This year's budget is expected to spell out new tax measures to finance the budget. Kenya Revenue Authority is expected to collect 2.1 trillion shillings amid an outcry of high taxation by Kenyans and businesses who hope the CS will announce tax relief measures as well as subsidy programs and stimulus packages to check inflation. It will be a tough balancing act for the CS, who will be tasked with budgeting for the upcoming general elections and the escalating cost of living.
Well, the 2022-2023 budget that is projected to be 3.3 trillion shillings will be read against a backdrop of the increased cost of living as prices of basic commodities surge.
With the prevailing macro and microeconomic environment, the National Treasury plans to roll out new subsidy programs and stimulus packages to check inflation and address the high cost of living.
Has subsidized fuel since June last year to mitigate against escalating global fuel prices. In the 2022-2023 financial year budget, it is expected the subsidy program will continue as global fuel prices increase. The energy and infrastructure sector will be allocated 364.3 billion shillings in this year's budget, and a significant amount of this allocation is expected to replenish the subsidy fund that the Ministry of Energy says has been exhausted.
Where that there's a subsidy agreement that the government entered into with the oil marketing companies to try and subsidize these costs so as to maintain the pump price. But then you must have seen that this subsidy program has not worked very efficiently. And there are a lot of pending bills to the oil marketing companies. And what they are grappling with, do we increase the prices to cover the costs?
The allocation is also expected to assist in finalizing the second phase of easing electricity prices in the country. Under the power tariff reduction plan, Kenya Power will have to forego 24 billion shillings annually in revenue shortfall, with Kenya Power urging the National Treasury for funds to bridge its shortfalls.
And we are now just about to begin the actual renegotiations. We believe that we'll get some efficiencies in that area, and that will reflect to the end user as a tariff reduction.
About energy, increasing costs in production of energy, then the issue of inflation automatically will come in. Because you can actually see all these matters are interrelated. All sectors of the economy are pegged on energy.
Agriculture has been allocated 64 billion shillings, with the billions of shillings allocated to fertilizer subsidies to reduce the cost of food production. The Agriculture Ministry has said in the past that it needs 30 billion shillings to subsidize fertilizer imports in the country.
We would require a total of that 1 billion. 851,916,000 if we were to take those prices that prevailed at some point in time.
The subsidized fertilizer will target the next planting season during the short rains in August and top dressing the current crop. Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani is also expected to make pronouncement on policy measures to lower the cost of animal feeds, which has gone up by more than 40% in the last 1 year. The government has so far zero-rated import of yellow maize and soya beans to lower the cost of animal feeds. Due to the ongoing drought, the government is expected to subsidize crop insurance for 1.45 million farmers to cushion them against crop failure. Arid and semi-arid areas will receive 7.1 billion shillings to deal with the ongoing drought. To cushion the old and the vulnerable, the government has set aside 10 billion shillings under the Inua Jamii Safety Nest targeting 2 million people. Benson Ruba reporting for Prime Edition.
All right, and now on to expectations ahead of tomorrow's budget. The Green Thinking Action Party of Kenya leader Isaac Kalua is calling on the government to rethink the plight of the common man as the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani tables the budget tomorrow.
Well, Kalua expects this year's budget to focus on job creation and reducing the prices of basic commodities. His sentiments were shared by others in leadership positions who expect the budget to also focus on reviewing policies on agriculture, energy and taxes.
As the budget is set to be read tomorrow, leaders from various sectors are hoping the budget will have reforms in key sectors.
The moment we keep telling the common person about very complicated issues, I think it is not going to help anyone. We need to face the reality. People cannot afford food. Prices of oil are going high. This is a situation that is not a quick fix situation. With the war that is in Ukraine and Russia, we need to be able to deal with issues that will place food on the table.
Agriculture is a big player in our economy, and it continues to attract a lot of support from the government, from your taxpayers' money. And so we will continue in the same trend where agriculture will feature well in terms of the support that it will get from the national coffers.
We are hoping that even whatever proportion that we are going to get as the Division of Revenue Act for the counties, that it will be available at the right time. Because the problem right now is that we are unable to get our own monies at the right time.
So the inflation rate, 5.1 to 6.23, is a central bank rate. That is what has been given to us so far. And I think that indicates the direction that we are taking in terms of food prices. non-alcoholic beverages. It is a factor of the consumer price index, the basket of goods that the average person is going to buy. So inflation is moving up, that there is no doubt about.
And from a corporate income tax perspective, we just want to see the movement. What are some of these other changes that could be implemented to generate more taxes? One of them being, will we see a sustenance of this issue of interest restriction? Are we going to see a variation of any other income tax proposals that will net in direct taxes?
Most of the leaders are now hoping the budget will take into consideration various measures to mitigate the cost of living. For Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
All right, thank you for that report, Tess. A lot indeed is expected, not just from leaders, but also from Kenyans as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I think, what has raised the tempo is the fact that this is going to be Uhuru Kenyatta's last budget, and so you'd expect Ukur Yatani to make a strong statement on the legacy of Uhuru Kenyatta in terms of budget making and presentation strategies and going forward. And you see, the other interesting thing is the fact that we are going to the elections on the 9th of August, and so this budget is being presented how many months before the elections?
2 months.
2 months? No. The elections are in August.
About less than 5 months.
Yes, about 4 months, so to speak. And
but it's actually 2 months. Based on the previous, we're used to the budget being.
Yeah, we are used to August. Yeah. I mean June.
Yeah, so it's 2 months.
But now, because of the elections, it has to be in April, and so this is not going to be more of the Jubilee administration's budget to implement. It is going to be a budget for the incoming administration now to implement. And so it will be very interesting to see what kind of a foundation they are going to lay for the oncoming administration.
All right. And moving this forward on Matter Sports now, the Sports Ministry has been allocated 17.4 billion shillings in the 2022-2023 national budget.
Well, this is 1 billion shillings more than the 16.1 billion shillings that the National Treasury allocated to the ministry in the current fiscal year.
Recurrent expenditure has been pegged at 1.3 billion shillings, while the development vote has been set at 16.1 billion shillings.
Well, the funds will go towards constructing and renovating new stadia, as well as promoting various sports discipline in the country. Here is Daniel Wahome with a breakdown.
In the fiscal year 2021-2022, the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund docket received a total of 15.1 billion shillings, which was an increase from the 14 billion shillings that was allocated to the sector in the 2020-2021 fiscal year. The National Treasury says the funds will be utilized to renovate and build new sports facilities and nurture sports talent and social arts. The sector is also banking on the sports fund to bankroll the operations of the industry. The fund, which is domiciled within the Ministry of Sport, was introduced in the financial year 2017-2018. The facility draws funding from betting, gaming and lotteries, which is meant to support sports federations, training and technical capacities of Kenyan sports people. Figures from the Ministry of Sport indicate that the fund collected 6.8 billion shillings in the last financial year, which was a drop from the 10 billion shillings collected in the fiscal year 2019-2020. The dip was attributed to the slugging sports activities in the country due to the COVID-19 scourge. The Sports Fund has helped the State Department for Sport to tap into the available funds without meandering through the budgetary hustles to finance national teams, player bonuses and finance sports infrastructure projects. Sports business consultant Felix Achieng adds that to access the fund, various policy regulations have been developed that federations must adhere to.
It's a daily task, for officials who credit to have to go out in and out to corporate supporters to ensure. But the funding has really gone a long way, as you've witnessed in the last 5 years, whether it's from hosting of international events, delivery of national teams, for example, the Sevens, the volleyball ladies.
However, the sport fraternity is hoping that a new board to manage the fund will be appointed after the term of the previous one expired. The challenge is now for Sports Association to incorporate development and build up events to benefit from the fund.
And that can also come in the form of increasing capacity. The conversation that needs to come is, at that level, what do we need to do? It means that we need to start getting the best youth coaches or the best coaches coming through from a development stage. So that means you can build capacity of those coaches down there, use the platforms and the ecosystems that already exist, whether it's holiday camps, whether it's academies, whether it's elite youth camps. So building capacity in that area is one of the biggest things.
The National Olympic Committee of Kenya is one of the biggest beneficiaries of the fund, and it will play a crucial role in facilitating the training and welfare of athletes taking part in the upcoming Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, England.
Out which of those teams have done so and which counties have asked for infrastructure support. For Prime Edition, I am Daniel Wahome.
And tomorrow, all the eyes of the nation will be on one man, the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary, Ambassador Ukur Yatani. Previously, he was at the Labour docket. We want now to go back in time and have a look at how the numbers have changed and priorities as well when it comes to budget making process. And I want to take you back to the 2013-2014. That was Uhuru Kenyatta's administration first budget. Previously, it was read by Robinson Jeru Githai, and it was presented on in the year 2012-2013. And so that set the pace for Uhuru Kenyatta's budget making process. And so let's go back to history. And here we are. In the fiscal year 2013-2014, look at these numbers. It was 1.6 trillion Kenya shillings, and of course, because of inflation, this number would be expected to be higher in today's meaning. And of course, the financing, in terms of borrowing, we were planning to borrow 356.9 billion shillings, and taxes were supposed to raise about 952 billion shillings. In terms of priority areas, county governments were allocated the lion's share. Well, not actually the lion's share, but it was actually number 3, because education was allocated 273 billion shillings, infrastructure was 220, and security was 105 billion shillings. And they set the pace for the expanded investment infrastructure under Uhuru Kenyatta's government. Let's also now focus on another critical year. That was in 2017. Remember, we were going through an election year. And so in 2017-2018, the budget was 2.29 trillion Kenya shillings. And in terms of financing, the taxes, I want you to have a look at these because taxes grew from 900 billion shillings in 2012 to around 1.71 trillion shillings. And another very interesting figure here, look at this. In 2014, Uhuru Kenyatta's administration was planning to borrow 354 billion shillings. In 2017-2018, this number had almost tripled to 900 billion shillings. You ask, this was all for what? It was because of the increased investment in infrastructure. And what were the priority areas? Let's see. And of course, as we all know, the county governments have been receiving a significant portion of Kenya's budget, and in that year, 295 billion shillings was allocated to the counties, and of course, education was 67 billion shillings, health 61, and infrastructure 134 billion shillings. Let's have a look at now the current year. The year 2020, this is the year 20, it's supposed to be the year 2023 to, wait a minute. Yes, we still continue with the 2020-2021. That was last year, actually, where 2.71 trillion shillings was supposed to be spent, and the financing of the same. Look at these again. Taxes was supposed to generate 819 billion shillings, while borrowing was supposed to about
Tumelala kwa kanisa ya mabati Kiambio the whole week. Inafika Sunday, leo ni Saturday. Sunday itakana watu wakuje hiyo church. Bado niko hapo stranded. Where are we? Mtembai, where are we? Kwa nini tufanyiwe madharau hivyo? And yet we were born in Kenya. Only that the land to be sold to a private developers. Aweka apartment. And na sisi tuumie. Kwani sisi tulikosea nini Mungu? Are we not part of Kenyans? Huh? Are we not part of Kenyans? Why is this happening to us? Why?
The said land is being claimed by the Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company, 3 churches and 2 private developers. The Senate Committee on Devolution has now directed the Inspector General of Police to engage the Ministry of Land in order to reconcile the ownership row in 7 days. Rishoki Washira, Prime Edition.
Really unfortunate, and we hope that controversy will be resolved soon.
Very, very indeed sad. Well, over 1.2 million learners who sat their Kenya Certificate of Primary Education last month will receive their Form 1 calling letters by Tuesday next week.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha, while commissioning a competency-based curriculum classroom at Kenya High, noted that Form 1 selection process is almost over. Zainab Said reports.
The results could be out, if we are lucky, maybe Monday or Tuesday. When I want to go personally and make sure that nobody has corrupted and that we have protected the weakest link.
Speaking after commissioning a competency-based classroom at the Kenya High School, Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha assured that the process, which is almost over, was smooth.
And this time around again, because of the Elimu scholarship, I shall go to the field to ensure that I ship out those poor children who in the past people used to sell their places so that they go to day schools.
Magoha affirming that the selection process will be based on affirmative action, especially for students to be enrolled in national schools.
Unlike in the past where all the children from the poor backgrounds used to be elbowed aside because of money, this shall not take place under my care. It shall not. So you are likely to hear a lot of noise from people who are confident that going by the progress, we only have a few challenges in Lamu. There are a few classrooms to be built there. Some of those areas are operational. We also have a few challenges in Baringo, which we are going to ensure that are covered. But globally, we are at 90%.
For Prime Edition, I'm Zainab Said.
Elsewhere, American company SC Johnson & Sons will resume the purchase of Kenya's pyrethrum for the production of chemicals.
President Uhuru Kenyatta welcomed the development, terming it a boost in the fight against malaria in Kenya and across the region.
President Uhuru Kenyatta today at State House, Nairobi, held talks with Dr. Fisk Johnson, the chairman, the CEO of SC Johnson & Sons Company. The company is a multinational manufacturer of household cleaning supplies and consumer chemicals. Dr. Johnson stated his company intends to resume its purchasing of Kenya's pyrethrum for the production of chemicals to boost the war against malaria. President Kenyatta noted that the venture will provide a ready market for farmers and increase their income. In a bid to revive production of pyrethrum in the country, the government last year released 40 million shillings for the purchase of pyrethrum seedlings for farmers in 18 high-potential counties. The government further revived operation at the Nakuru-based pyrethrum processing company. Also present was Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe and officials of the End Malaria Council led by Chairman Christopher Getonga.
All right, now on to matters politics. And constituent parties in Azimio will not field candidates in Nairobi in the August elections.
Well, the parties, through consensus, will identify a single candidate under the Azimio umbrella in all elective positions.
This was revealed by Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, who said that the party favors consensus as opposed to divisive nominations.
With the deadline for party nominations set to be the 21st of this month, the biggest headache for major political outfits right now is handling nominations and the fallout emanating from the exercise. President Kenyatta's Jubilee Party is going to identify its candidates through a three-pronged strategy. According to the party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, the party will issue nomination certificates to candidates picked through a consensus process, hand direct nominations to some of the candidates, and conduct nominations in the final week in places where there will be no consensus among candidates.
I know there is a bit of anxiety. We are continuing to receive very many phone calls from people, but we want to tell you that that process is ongoing and we are on schedule. We will make sure that everything that needs to be done is done within the timelines that have been given by Registrar of Political Parties and also by the IEBC.
The party is, however, encouraging most of its candidates to have consensus, saying the party favors consensus as opposed to the divisive nominations.
There in the past, we did not value the issue of negotiated democracy that was being practiced in the northern frontier of this country or within the pastoralist communities. But it has come to pass that one of the best ways of dealing with our diversity as a country is to encourage the issue of negotiated democracy.
Kioni has also revealed that the Azimio One Kenya political party will only have a single candidate flying its flag in Nairobi County, with candidates expected to be identified through consensus.
So that we do not allow anybody kupita katikati. And that requires sitting down with those who aspire to become candidates, and it will take a while.
Meanwhile, the National Jubilee Women's League has called out a section of politicians they accuse of disrespecting President Uhuru Kenyatta. The league, led by Wajir County MP Fatuma Gedi, says those hurling insults at the president and the First Family are displaying cowardice.
Tunataka mtu ule siasa zake ni maendeleo na haina matusi. Kweli, na sisi kama wana Jubilee, kiongozi wetu ametuambia kitu moja. Muende ground, mtafute kura. Muende muuze Jubilee, na sitaki kusikia matusi.
Tusibomoe nyumba yetu tukiwa ndani. Hii machama mengine unaambiwa twende, kwenda, ina wenyewe. Msiwarudishie, msiwatukane. The more they insult you, the more they vote. Tuko pamoja.
Elsewhere, Amani National Congress Party leader Musalia Mudavadi has urged the government to make this subsidized fertilizer available to all Kenyans without restrictions.
And as Nancy Okware reports, Mudavadi said the small-scale farmers should not be left out despite not being registered under the National Cereals and Produce Board.
ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi on Wednesday met Western Kenya grassroots leaders and aspirants living in Nairobi. The leaders from the three constituencies of Kibra, Dagoretti South and Lang'ata were drawn from ANC, UDA and Ford Kenya parties that constitute the Kenya Kwanza Alliance.
Wewe unatoka Ikolomani, wewe unatoka Huisero, wewe unatoka Butula, una shamba lako kidogo ya mahindi. Kazi yako kwa sababu ya uzito ni kuuza mahindi, ulishe jamii yako. Alafu wanakuambia wewe hauhitaji fertilizer kwa sababu wewe si registered kwa NCPB. Kwani kila mkulima Kenya hii anapeleka mahindi NCPB?
Mudavadi further assuring the aspirants that the alliance parties would conduct fair nominations and produce aspirants that will deliver victory.
Ni lazima sasa tubadilishe mambo ya siasa, tulenge the welfare of the ordinary Kenyan. Na hapo ndio sisi tunasimama kama Kenya kwanza.
This coming as UDA party aspirants in Nakuru held a meeting with the party National Elections Board ahead of the party primary slated for April 14th. Some of the aspirants expressing concern that issuance of direct tickets could lead to voter apathy.
Ni vyema kupea raia nafasi wajichagulie a candidate of their choice, ili watakuwa na confidence na yeye akikutana na wale wa vyama vingine haiko na high chances ya kushinda.
Kama kuna utafiti yote ambaye inaweza kuwa imefanywa, inategemea vile wamewachana. Kama inaonekana kweli candidate fulani amewachana na mwingine kwa umbali, nafikiria si vizuri awe subjected to nomination.
In Kirinyaga County, UDA has warned that it will not allow other political parties and government operatives to interfere with its nomination exercise.
Watu wa chama zingine kuleta watu wengine ili wakuje waagushe the strong candidates haitawezekana. Tuko na hiyo mikakati, tumejipanga na tutaonana ground.
We have left here in one voice that we must not have any violence in any of the polling stations.
In Embu, aspirants have appealed to the National Election Board of the party to ensure a free and fair process. Speaking during a meeting with the returning officer, the aspirants called on the board to ensure that women aspirants were not subjected to political violence and intimidation.
Hakuna certificate imepeanwa na hakuna certificate apeanwa. Wananchi ndio wanapeana certificate ya UDA.
The real certificate iko na voters wenyewe. Certificate yenye itapeanwa on 14th April 2022.
Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
Well, can film be used to tell history and demonstrate cultural beliefs of a people?
Well, local filmmakers have stepped out to document some elements of the African culture.
Well, such is the case with the film Insurgents, which we feature tonight in our weekly segment, Cinemas and Theatre. Take a look.
Insurgents is a film about Kamau, who has a critical task, that of saving his village from invasion.
Guard yourselves! The white men are coming! Women, protect your children!
Things go bad when Musa, the chief, doesn't want to hand over power to his firstborn son in preference to his second-born, Eugene.
A friend of mine asked me about a prominent leader who was back then during the 19s. Then I'm like, we can do something on it. Since there's no any production in Kenya that does our culture back then during the 19s, the independent thing. So the main aim for this film was to capture and take us back to our roots. We are African. Africa don't forget their roots.
The film, produced by Peter Ohana, seeks to tell more about African culture and how succession of power was done in the past.
Our main character is called Kama. So Kama is a young guy who is really rebelliant about having his position as a chief. Back then, being a chief was something really close to the power. The chief prefers the last born, who is called Eugene. Okay? But Kama has to portray his full potential by defeating the whites, using reverse psychology by using the villagers and playing the victim.
We are sons of Mumbi. We come from the hills. That is where we draw our strength.
Our Kenyan industry is going in terms of film, right? But we are really looking forward on to things like CID, FBI's, this, Hollywood movies, you see. forgetting our own stories. I feel really proud of doing this film since it's unique on its own.
Type of son does not avenge his own father's death.
Let's empower more young producers since this industry is a well-paying industry nowadays. For any young producer who is coming up, what I would say, just do your thing. Don't wait for money, don't wait for fans. Just do your thing. Fans will find you.
Be powerful. You can't fight them. And I shall show you are more powerful.
Kamau has to face his biggest fight for freedom with the help of his village mates. They are imprisoned for fighting for the truth. Will Kamau win this war? Jacqueline Masharia for Cinemas and Theatre.
President Uhuru Kenyatta's final budget. From Treasury to the streets and Parliament. What is contained in Ukur Yatane's briefcase? We unpack the numbers and analyze the statistics to help you understand what is contained in the 2022-2023 budget on KBC Channel 1.
Ili kupata Warumi 8 kama skiza tune kwenye simu yako, bonyeza *811 *815#.
Nina hakika kwamba hakuna kinachoweza kukutenga na upendo wa Mwenyezi Mungu. Si kifo, si malaika, si vitu tulivyokuwa navyo au tutakavyokuwa navyo, si mamlaka au chochote kitakachoumbwa. Warumi 8:38 hadi 39.
Kupata Warumi 8, bonyeza *811 *815#. *811 *815#.
Time now to continue with the latest in the world of business, where the Central Bank of Kenya and Visa will custom fintech packages for underserved micro, small and medium-sized enterprises to provide digital financial services in efforts to reduce the digital financial divide.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge says there is immense potential in the financial services sector and relevant stakeholders should employ technology and be innovative to fully tap it.
Of the 44 million micro, small and medium-sized enterprise merchants across sub-Saharan Africa, only 2 million accept digital payments and have credentials to use e-financing services. Kenya is the first country in the sub-Saharan African region to have the dedicated innovation site that will host local innovators and fintechs to bridge the gap in the market. The facility will serve the sub-Saharan Africa region and joins 3 other innovation centers operated by Visa in cities including Dubai, Singapore and San Francisco. Central Bank Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge says there is need to democratize digital services in order to provide varied solutions and to capitalize therein.
It is having a secure, fast, efficient, and collaborative payment system that supports financial inclusion and innovations that benefit Kenyans.
We trust that we will leverage together the opportunity to co-create, the opportunity to unlock the potential based on the realities of our markets, based on the realities of our customers.
Financial service corporations are concerned that cross-border trade in East African region is still done in cash instead of digital payments.
Co-create solutions that are relevant for this region and to continue to drive consumer and seller use cases to accelerate digital commerce and move money in more efficient ways.
The digital financial ecosystem future seems bright. Imagine paying for your matatu with cryptocurrency. Imagine having a financial package custom made for your small business and having to pay or your customers pay on the digital domain. Hibak Said for Prime Edition.
All right, let's move this forward. Vandals have gone a notch higher to demand payment for power reconnection from unsuspecting members of the public while posing as Kenya Power employees.
Well, in a baffling revelation, Kenya Power County Business Manager Engineer Harrison Kamau is warning the public to desist from collaborating with vendors owing to risks, among them self-injury and loss of property and lives, and instead report any such incident to the police.
So far, Kenya Power has incurred 5.5 million shillings worth of losses due to vandalism in Murang'a County alone.
Tuko na active cases pale kotini ambazo ni takriban 22. Mbili zimeweza kuisha kwa mwaka huu na wale watu wameweza kufungwa. Kifungo mmoja amefungwa kifungo cha miaka 3 na mwingine ameweza kufungwa mwaka mmoja.
The unscrupulous third parties have gone a notch higher to impersonate the company's officers and demand payment to restore electricity supply.
Ukiwa uko connected directed, na hiyo ni kumaanisha ya kwamba unaiba stima. Mnafaa mjue ya kwamba ni hatia kupatikana ukiiba stima. Na ukipelekwa kotini unaweza hukumiwa kifungo cha miaka 5 ama faini ya shilingi milioni 5.
According to Kenya Power, illegal electricity connections pose a danger to the public as unauthorized electrical links are done using substandard and crude materials, thus can easily cause harm through electrocution, fires as well as damage to property. Kenya Power is therefore appealing to members of the public to report cases of people demanding cash to offer service.
Hawa watu ambao wanazunguka huku vijijini wakifanya hiyo maovu yote, kama mnaweza kuwatabua na mtujulishe ama mjulishe any of the security agencies. Tuko na ushirikiano mzuri sana na maafisa wa polisi na pia gao, na tunataka hawa watu washikwe.
The company has so far lost 11 transformers in Murang'a County out of 18 transformers vandalized within the Mount Kenya region.
Stima ni hatari na ni kitu yenye inaweza sababisha kifo. Ukipanda pale juu, kama unachota hiyo mafuta ya transformer ama unaenda kujirekebishia, hiyo ni kitu inaweza kukuletea kifo na uache jamii yako.
Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
Well, time now to talk about construction matters, where the National Construction Authority Bill 2022 inched closer to law after it passed the second reading in Parliament.
The bill, which seeks to empower NCA to demolish condemned buildings, will also give women and youth a chunk of the multi-billion shillings construction industry tenders.
Well, the bill is now headed for the third reading.
Kenya is facing a crisis in integrity in its built environment due to non-adherence to the building code. The National Construction Authority, which is the industry regulator, has been accused of failing to enforce the code. The new bill seeks to empower the authority to enforce the building code, to investigate condemned buildings and prescribe punishment to errant engineers, architects or quantity surveyors who are involved in the construction of the buildings. Members of Parliament raised concerns about the state of the built environment in Kenya, saying proper regulations needed to be put in place to safeguard the life of Kenyans. Members of Parliament have also agreed to waive the prescribed fees for the youth and people living with disabilities in accessing the 30% tenders in the construction industry.
This again will go a long way in addressing the plight that these special groups, whenever they get the certificate of incorporation, they can be able to easily access the 30% that is a requirement by law that should go to these groupings.
Under the bill, businesses owned by women, youth and people with disabilities that apply for the NCA board as contractors registration will be exempted from paying the 5,000 and 100,000 registration fees.
The nearest Huduma Center and will seek for a waiver, and I'm sure they will begin their companies and they will be able to exercise what they have learned in the local polytechnics under the county, and they are able to do a lot of work in this time of devolution.
Ndutamo Kami for Prime Edition.
Well, time now to refocus our attention on to the world of sports.
Yeah, Richard Munga is coming up shortly with that, so do stay with us. Prime Edition still continues.
Well, a very good evening to you, and as always, it is an honor to have your company for KBC Sports with me, Richard Munga. Now, Sports Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed has received the much-awaited Cricket Normalization Committee report following a successful national elections that were held at Kasarani last month. The CS committed to work with new Cricket Kenya office after receiving the committee report that was handed over to her at Kasarani on Wednesday. Mohammed indicated that short-term goals for the federation are to come up with a competent national team that will ply trade for the country at international events.
The truth is that 3/4 of the federations in this country, 3/4 need fixing, right? If not more. They need fixing. They don't have any governance structures. They operate almost as briefcase federations. They don't respect any laws. They're actually laws unto themselves.
What is due to them in terms of the per diems, when you do not provide them with kits and you expect them to go and represent the country and hold the country, you're really asking for a lot. They should never compromise when it comes to the teams. They're the reason that we're all around this table, and keep that. Once you keep that in the back of your mind, then you find yourself navigating towards doing the right thing.
Meanwhile, the men's 15-a-side national rugby team, popularly known as Simbas, that travels to South Africa for the Currie Cup First Division was named today. The team will feature 30 players with 23 possible reserves named.
As the Kenya Simbas prepare for the African qualifiers for the 2023 Rugby World Cup, they have received an invitation from the South African Rugby Union to participate in the Currie Cup First Division, which is the second tier of 15s rugby in South Africa. Coach Paul Odera has named a 30-man squad that leaves the country on Thursday for the competition. The team will be captained by Dan Sikuto Cabral Sugar.
But most importantly, who are we going to play to prepare us to play the likes of Senegal, Algeria, Uganda, Zimbabwe and Namibia? Because we need competition that's a lot harder than them. And really, it was quite simple that we need to get to South Africa, who are the world champions, and let's get matches.
The Simbas will play at the Currie Cup First Division for 10 weeks, starting with a clash against the Falcons on Saturday. Zimbabwe and Georgia are the other invited national sides. For Prime Edition, I am Daniel Wahome.
Also, 10 regions, including the Prison Headquarter, will take part in the annual Prisons Kenya Inter-Regional Sports Championship that is set to be held between 8th and 9th of this month in Nairobi and its environs. Meanwhile, members drawn from different parts of the country came together to celebrate the International Day of Sports for Development and Peace.
Speaking at the prison headquarters, Commissioner General of Prisons Brigadier Retired John Warioba assured staff of a continuous support of sports and will use this weekend's event to select the athletics team, which will represent it into the national championship as well as trials for international events.
There's nothing new that I'm really going to inject in, because they have been on course and they will remain on course. I think we are a powerhouse in athletics, that one you know. And I think we intend to maintain the momentum.
The two-day event, which will be held at Committee Maximum Prisons and Kasarani stadiums, will see police officers compete in volleyball, darts and athletics after the disciplines were whittled down due to financial constraints.
Doping in our country, it has turned to be a menace, and what I would like to tell the athletes or the sportsmen and women is that, it's good to run clean, because one, even if you win that amount of money because you have doped, you are going to spend it either in treating yourself, because you will end up having unhealthy.
Among the top athletes from service who will take part in the athletics championships are reigning 1500 meters world champion Timothy Cheruiyot and 3000 meters steeplechase under 20 world record holder Serfine Chespoi. Meanwhile, members from different parts of the country came together to celebrate the International Day of Sports for Development and Peace. Speaking at the University of Nairobi grounds, the Special Olympics Kenya sports manager Vincent Mwengai maintained that the event is basically organized to train on the necessity of learning sport.
Youth, they are the ones who are used in most of these vices. So if we engage them in sport and we educate them on the necessities of making sure that the life important concepts are observed, then we are going to move somewhere.
We are working with the various stakeholders, and you know, sports has various stakeholders to promote this day, because sports is very important for sustainable development. It's very important in promoting people's health, very important for using it as a tool for social inclusion, a tool for peace, and even a tool for addressing issues of climate.
Mungai also stated that they will hold an open forum to discuss on life matters. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Well, now that's all the time we have for sports, but just a reminder, the Champions League continues tonight. That is the quarter-final stage, match day 2, where Villarreal from Spain is taking on German champions Bayern Munich. While, of course, you have Chelsea taking on Spanish side Real Madrid. Well, back to you, Serfine and Brian.
Indeed, thank you, Richard, for that. And for us here, it's just to wrap it up. But remember, tomorrow a big day lined up for our viewers.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we shall be beaming to you live all the proceedings from Parliament for the National Assembly. And of course, we shall be sampling the citizens' view from Mombasa to Nairobi to Kisumu. So all we can promise you is we have prepared and lined up unrivaled coverage of the 2022-2023 budget coverage.
All right, the hashtag is the legacy budget. Of course, tomorrow, KBC Channel 1 is the place to be. But before then, we are going to be paving way for some light moment. Reggae tunes coming up. The Rave is the show. Do stay for that and much more. My name is Achieng Oma. Our sign language interpreter tonight has been Lensa Odingo.
O'Brien Kimani is my name. Thank you for joining us. See you tomorrow.
Say you want people power nation. When I check it's a personal game thing. You fight for people power nation. Some even say that they fight for peace. Right now, people